Today I want to compare the different types of irons and chisels used to punch holes for stitching leather. They each do the same job, but they have a big impact on the final look of your stitching. First, I'm going to look at each chisel in detail, then look at the shape of the holes that they make when chiseling. Finally, I will compare the look of the stitching. So let's get started. This first one here is a pricking iron. It is the most traditional tool we have here, and it is used to prick the surface of the leather without fully penetrating it. When you come to stitching, you will first need to pass an awl through each hole before your needle. The prongs on the pricking iron have a flat tip and are very thin, as they only need to leave a small hole. Next up is the diamond chisel. This is a more basic tool, and it is used to completely punch through all the layers of a leather workpiece. Each prong is tipped with a point, making it easier to punch through thick leather. The prongs are diamond shaped and leave a much larger hole than the pricking iron. Here is a Japanese style crimson irons. It is halfway between a pricking iron and a diamond chisel, as its prongs have a pointy tip like a chisel, and also a thin prong like a pricking iron. It can be used like a chisel and punch through thick leather, while only leaving a small hole. It comes polished out of the box, making it a lot easier to pull out when punching thick leather. Last of all, we have a round punch chisel. This one makes 0.5 mm holes, but there are other types that work more like a chisel and make only small round holes. These round punch chisels make a simple row of round holes, giving the most basic looking stitching. Now let's see how these holes compare on our leather test piece. Let's take a closer look at the stitching holes from each of the chisels on this leather sample. All of these chisels are around 4 mm spacing, so the only difference is the shape of the holes. This top row here is the pricking iron. I have already passed an awl through each of these holes, so we can see them a bit better. It is the most slanted holes and will give the most pronounced stitching. This second row is the diamond chisel. The holes are a lot bigger, but still have good slanting, almost as much as the pricking iron. This third row is the crimson irons. It has small holes similar to the pricking irons, which will give it similar clean stitching. However, the slanting is a bit less than the pricking irons, and so the stitching will look a little less slanted. This final row is the round punch chisel. The holes are a lot larger than all of the others. This will make it a lot easier to stitch, but will give it a different look to the stitching. I'm going to stitch these holes, and then we're going to compare the stitching. Here we can see all the stitching samples together on one piece. I have stitched all of them using the same 0.5 mm thread. They all look a little bit different, which is why your selection of chiseling tools is so important. The pricking iron stitching at the top here shows the most amount of slanting with the minimal amount of distortion around each hole, making it look very clean. The diamond chisel is similar to the pricking irons, but it leaves a depression around each hole. It does not look as clean as the pricking irons do. The crimson irons give a clean hole as the holes were quite slim. However, they are slanted less than the pricking irons. Finally, the round punch chisel gives a large hole and flatter looking stitches. I think these holes are better matched with a thicker thread. For me, these holes are not so suitable for saddle stitching. They are more suited for a different stitching method, such as the baseball stitch. If you want to get slanted stitches for an elegant look, then these 3 chisels are the way to go. If you're a beginner, then I recommend a diamond chisel or crimson irons, as they can punch through all layers of a leather project and are easy to use. If you want to have the best looking stitching and you don't mind using an awl while stitching, then the pricking irons are for you. If you need a sturdy looking stitching for a larger item, then the round punch is best, especially when combined with a thicker thread. For me, I use the crimson irons as I really like the look of the stitching. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you found it helpful. If you enjoyed it, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.